What is up, fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Dan Favale coming at you with another legendary HardwoodKnocks podcast. Before we get started, let's continue to build a community. And please, that means subscribing to wherever you're consuming us. If this is your first time checking us out on YouTube, hit that sub button, that like button, comment, help the algorithm love us back. We're in the throes of the season and our YouTube growth has slowed. That is inexplicable, but I guess there's more content out there, so I kind of understand it. Let's start with James Harden's injury. That's going to cost him a month. Woj reported that he has a right foot tendon sprain, so he's going to miss the next month. He suffered it, I'm assuming, during that loss to the Washington Wizards on, was that Wednesday night? I saw the second half of that, and it was just like a little bit depressing. Look, we don't know the status of Joel Embiid as I record this, who has missed the past couple games. This is going to be a test for the Sixers. What I thought was interesting is Brian Toporek, who's been on this podcast a bunch, works at Bleacher Report with me, and then also writes for Forbes. He sort of framed this as the Philadelphia 76ers will get an opportunity to self-exploration, specifically, to where maybe they can figure out a different way of running their team, especially as we project forward to the playoffs, assuming that they're going to get there. And it's also just a test because if you have just Embiid and Maxey, you're going against opponents. Their next seven, this Toporek wrote this, are currently above 500 or at 500 or above. So that time is not great, and we're talking about someone who leads the team in assists and is just so important to how the offense has been driving. Philly's offense has largely been really good, even without Joel Embiid. We all know the problems about the transition defense. That has looked, it looked better in the couple games, but it's just been pretty bad when you look at the numbers surrounding it. And there's still just so many misses per game on that front. What I am interested to see is just, all right, we finally get solo Tyrese Maxey time. And I'm not talking about Tyrese Maxey playing independent of Harden, because the Sixers do prefer to tether his minutes to Joel Embiid's, and then they're going to play Harden with Tobias Harris. The minutes when Maxey and Embiid have played together without Harden this year have been a disaster. The Sixers have a net rating of minus 21.3, an offensive rating in the 27th percentile, and they're allowing 130.3 points per 100 possessions. That would be in the 0th percentile of defensive efficiency for anyone who cares. However, I do think Maxey has the juice to lead his own offense. I don't know if there will be defensive concerns if you're just going to play him with a front court that has George Niang and Montrezl Harrell. But if you start to get, okay, well, can we sneak Shake Milton and Daniel House in there? And now we're going to actually see him play with PJ Tucker at the 5, since Philly has leaned into that without Embiid. I think you could get to points where you're better equipped defensively, but on the season, and the sample size is not huge, I want to make that clear, but the Sixers have a 131 offensive rating when Maxey plays without both Harden and Embiid. They are a plus 5.2 points per 100 possessions. The issue is that means they have a 125.9 defensive rating, which would be in the 1st percentile. That's not good. Again, a lot of those minutes, like I said, have come when your front court is Niang and Harrell, because Doc Rivers still runs can we say predominantly heavy bench units when there's 2 starters on the court? It's a lot of what, when you're not dealing with Embiid and Harden, it's a lot of 1 starter minutes. And so does putting Tobias Harris in there really help you all that much? I don't know, but maybe you can steal some more minutes with Matisse Thybulle here, because they're going to have to be heavy bench units when you don't have Harden, because he's out. And then when Embiid is back, you're staggering those minutes. I think the structure that you want to see is probably Milton, Daniel House, PJ Tucker, Maxey, and then I don't care. If you need to go with George Niang there, or to Tobias Harris, but now we're just basically naming what the starting lineup should be. So, but my point is, if you do well during this stretch to keep your head above water, where it's not even just the starting lineup is killer, because Embiid will eventually be in that, but it's Maxey during his solo stretches are able to run an actual offense. It does open up options to where, okay, well, maybe we change the way that we're running this team, and to inject some pace in here, rather than tie Tyrese Maxey's minutes to Joel Embiid, we let him go alone and play with a variable cadence. Right now, Philly is 28th in average possession time on offense, 28th. They are dead last in the average possession time after their opponent makes a shot. You can inject more pace into this team with Tyrese Maxey in that situation, but the overarching situation as well. They're 26th in transition frequency. That changes, or should change, when you have Tyrese Maxey. And then if he's playing minutes with DeAnthony Melton, that's your backcourt, just absolutely forget about it. Those guys will get out and run. being able to explore that element, I think, could help the Sixers in the long run. And this is less critical, but something to keep an eye on. Like, you get more information about what Tyrese Maxey is just capable of here as Kenny sort of run these units on his own. His playmaking numbers have been repressed this season because James Harden is there, but he's scoring. His scoring numbers are absolutely bonkers. 55% on twos, 47% on threes. 48% on threes, by the way, outside of garbage time per cleaner. That's like, this dude is just absolutely annihilatory right now. I do think he's probably slipped on defense a tad, which is, he wasn't a world beating defender in the first place, but that might be something to monitor. His straight line drives are incredible. He looks like a human blur, but can he also maybe slow things down, run pick and roll if there's enough spacing, break down set defenses where he might have to operate at, there might have to be some hesitation. He has to change the speed of his dribbles. That will all be fun things to monitor. I'm not calling this a blessing in disguise, but it is, I think, as Toporek said, it's an opportunity for self-discovery with the Sixers, and they will have to be a team to watch because they became trendy title picks, and I even had them second or third in the East when we did our predictions, and they have underachieved thus far for sure. So I'm going to be watching them very closely with out Harden because their ceiling hinged upon maybe Maxey a lot more than people realize, and now it definitely is contingent upon him just sort of blossoming in a different role. Let's also see though if he plays well, like is Doc just going to revert back to his usual substitution patterns? Hopefully not. But I'm intrigued to see what the Sixers look like now, where Maxey is going to get to run the show even when Joel Embiid is there, but more so those lineups without Embiid. I just want to see what they look like when Maxey is on his own, and also kind of how they futz and fiddle with them if they're Philly, because the rotation pattern has to change now since you're elevating someone else from the bench to the starting five. And also, look, this is just a pivotal stretch for Philly now. You look at where they are in the Eastern Conference standings. They're fighting to just hover around 500 at the moment. The defense has been so disappointing. They're lucky that they're within striking distance of everybody still. Like they're only 4 games back of the undefeated Bucks. Like that's how early we are into the season at the moment. But like your margin for error, excuse me, isn't great or particularly huge. So like this month is mission critical because I think there's going to be a lot of separation when we're looking at teams, one of which I'm about to talk about, where they might be sort of entering like some make or break points. But right now, like, okay, you don't maybe have to worry about the Nets this season. But like the Hornets are going to get LaMelo back at some point, and they've been a little bit frisky so far this season. I think the Heat will get better. I'm really not sure. I mean, they've won 2 in a row, 2 quality wins. That game against the Kings was just absolutely frazzled. But like, so if they get better, the Celtics, I think, are going to get better defensively when you look at them. The Hawks have been good. The Raptors have been good. The Cavs and Bucks are dominating. It was fully expected Philly would avoid play-in territory, is my point. And so if there's separation that occurs, the Celtics, the Hawks, the Raptors, the Cavs, and the Bucks all just look like teams at this moment. They are 1 through 5 that are going to stay in the thick of things. I don't really know about the Bulls. They've had like some really up and down games when it feels like they're terrible, but they're able to cobble together victories. And I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Ayo Dosunmu this year. We've seen some really nice things from Patrick Williams defensively when he's been allowed to operate in just sort of like, okay, like we're not trying to give you this specific assignment capacity. So like, this gets really interesting because if we're going by my logic at this point, and I'm not sure that I picked the Hawks to finish in the top 6, there's probably a team that I put in the play in here because I had the Sixers in, maybe that was my top 6. I could go look, but I did I put the Heat in the play in? But it looks like right now, one of the Heat or the Sixers are going to be in the play in, which is just sort of a wild thing to think about. And so this month for the Sixers is both huge and telltale in so many different ways, not just of where they might end up with the regular season, but like of who they are and how far they're actually capable of going if they're able to diversify the way that they play and then open up different sorts of lineup packages for when they are hopefully at full strength. Let's get to 2 more things.